Hello, Vince.
Hi, Bianca. Good to see you. You've not been turning your camera on.
Oh, it's 6 a.m. and uh, I joined, but it was a bit hectic for a moment.
Sure. If you feel that we're losing you or your interest is waning, do tell me. Do come forward and tell me that, if what we're discussing is of interest to you or not.
Mm. Sometimes, it feels for me like you are like uh, like you are giving another story, and maybe because I was disillusioned. Now, um, it sounds to me like another illusion.
Yep. Well, that certainly can happen.
But it's not that I'm not interested at all. When Maya was talking recently, and she was so honest in this saying, I'm lying all the time, and I felt it because it was from in my committee. It's this obedient child, good girl, or in adult terms, a productive member of society. They always say, and and for me it also lies. It lies because the good girl believes that she should know. She should do this and that, and if she can't, then we have to fake it.
Mm.
But also, it's good to see this in other people's people, because I could see in Maya how it is all about feeling safe. Do this and this and this, and then I will feel safe.
Mm. Yeah.
And this is a lie.
True. Yeah. And we all lie to ourselves, and sometimes it takes somebody else. Well, it takes something more immediate, perhaps, and that is a willingness to have somebody else point it out if it doesn't feel authentic. And I'm no different to anybody else. I'm sure I lie to myself about things as well. I mean, I imagine that I do, but I'm so good at it, I don't catch myself doing it. But
Yeah.
if you think I'm lying, I would welcome you pointing that out, or saying that you think that is the case, and that gives me an opportunity to investigate that. But I'm sure, I imagine with Maya, it was a fairly new realization when she said she's lying. Before that, she may not have realized she was. I don't know, but
Um,
I imagine
mm,
that's the case. Yeah. I don't have a good memory about these things, but I do remember calling her a liar once,
mm,
and that may have been some kind of a trigger for her to investigate those kind of things. But the beautiful, brilliant thing is that I felt relaxed doing that. It wasn't a judgment as such. It was a description of something that I imagined was happening. So that's really good that we can do that for each other, and nobody takes it personally or takes offence at it or feels the need to defend when that happens. That's a good one. So how do we how
but
do we how do it
the,
go on?
mm, also for me, I saw that um, because this good girl is doing, all the things that you should do the work, chores, to feel safe, and but in my system I know that it is a lie, and this is the source of destructive behavior,
Hmm.
auto sabotaging myself, um, because another part of me calls a lie and says it won't work.
Well, that's the big thing,
It
isn't
won't
it?
work anyhow. So
Yep.
fuck it all.
So why do we do it? Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
And it's destroy it. And it's an energy like, like a little child uh, pushing the castle made of wooden blocks, and
Yeah, yeah, pushing it over. Yeah, but that happens with that realization. In this case, the realization that it doesn't work anyway. We do it because we
yeah.
we once believed that it would work, and now we recognise that it's what. But there's a bigger underlying thing there, and that is that we don't actually need to defend. It's an imagined danger that we're defending against.
Mm. Yes, I also saw that it's not about being safe, like
Yes, yes. The difference is
uh,
feeling it.
reality. It's about feeling safe.
Mm. And that,
This is what is important for this little child, that it wants to feel safe.
yep.
because, are we safe? Who knows?
Mm.
I think maybe we never are safe.
Yeah, well, we never are in danger. Both could be true. Yeah, yeah,
We just don't know.
yeah. With a young child, I can imagine that it only takes a parent or somebody with a raised voice to produce that feeling of danger. So the way they then respond in order to feel safe is in the presence of what's seen as a real danger, and it is it possible? Probably not. Is it possible that the young child could recognise that somebody yelling at it is not actually posing a danger? They're not going to go to
Mhm.
necessarily. I mean, in some cases they might, but they're not likely to go to inflicting physical damage on the child. They might just, if they're just yelling at it, but it still feels very real, that danger to the child. It's only when we get to be an adult we recognise that they can yell all they like and it's not going to physically hurt me. But for the child, that's a real danger, I think. So in a way, it's a legitimate defence to try and not be, to try and avoid that danger. But we keep that imagined danger with us forever and ever, and we keep, it does. I mean, even I feel, uh, I recoil if somebody shouts at me angrily. It's a physical reaction that happens.
Yes, after the last appointment, when I received a lot of praise for my work, and I noticed that being praised makes me anxious.
Yes. Yeah. Me too.
And
Me too. In a funny
yeah,
way. Yeah. Yeah.
and this was so it's a lie. But you do this and this, and if you do everything well, you will feel safe. No, I got praise and I felt anxious, not safe.
Did you recognise what that anxiety was about?
Uh, that praise is putting expectations.
Yes, that you have to keep being that good, and if you don't,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, that's a big one.
yeah, and it never ends, and yeah,
Mm.
there is never feeling safe in the
Yeah, it's a little different for me when the anxiety that I feel is, anxiety may not be quite the right word, but there is that, it's like they want me to be a person again. They want me to identify as something when they praise, and I find that I don't want to do that. I don't want to become a character again. That's crazy, but it does make me feel, anxious is probably a good word. A little bit. Um, it has a whole lot of things in it. Apologetic and, uh, yeah. But yes, I mean that's the
yeah.
thing with getting good stuff. it's like, well, you've got to keep getting it, or next time you'll get bad stuff. If we give you good stuff, we can also give you bad stuff. We can criticize. Yeah.
Yes, like good things always come with the inventory.
Yeah. And so the other way around too, bad things come with good stuff in them, and we just have
Hmm.
to find it.
Hmm. I thought that, at the last meeting, and you said something um, someone about clinging to his suffering, because without this suffering, um,
Yep. Yeah, I think
it is without this suffering, you wouldn't be a good employee, a good father. Mm.
yeah, when you said that,
And
I was thinking of Dennis, uh,
uh-huh.
and it was what I got out of it was a lot more. It was that he would disappear without the suffering. Not just his roles, but that he relied on that suffering to have existence, so to speak. It's a bit more esoteric, but yeah, when somebody identifies with suffering all their life, of course it's like they'll disappear if they lose it. But really, it's the identification that will go. But it feels like everything. But you're talking about motivation, aren't you? That's just a slightly different aspect to it. That he's using the suffering to motivate himself to be good at this and that.
Yeah, I can see it in me. It is well, it is just happening. This is what is happening. If I don't feel fear, I won't do my work.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm not judging it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I get that. You're good. You do a good
I just looking at it like the mechanism unfolding, and
Hmm.
it's just like this.
So does that come in the form of I'll lose my job? I use that to keep me working?
No, it's rather how do you say it in English? Um, I will let someone else down.
Right. Okay. Yep. Right.
Someone will be very disappointed and will feel bad.
Right. So it's my responsibility to perform well.
Well, I made a promise.
Yeah. Well, then it's your responsibility to keep your promise. I mean, anybody who takes on a job is entering a contract, aren't they? They're making a promise
Yeah,
to do the
yeah.
job. Yeah. So do you imagine then that without that fear, you simply wouldn't even go to work?
I'm not imagining it's happening.
Mm. Mm.
Because as I said, there is this part where it says, oh, come on. If you let them down, you will feel bad. If you don't let them down, you will feel bad. So,
Yeah. No escaping.
fuck it all.
Mm. So you don't ever feel joy when you're working,
I do.
and is that come?
I do, but like if anything, with anything, you have to go through a lot of boring stuff to get to this joy.
Uh, so it's occasional. It's not there most of the time.
Yeah, on the other side, here's a good girl, and here's another child that just wants to play. There is always something more interesting than working.
So I was just thinking, you know what?
I will turn off my camera for some time
Okay.
because uh, my husband is getting up. But I'm here.
Okay. Will we keep talking?
We can.
So I was just thinking, what I've done today so far, and where has there been joy in it for me? And the first thing that I guess was big was when my wife asked me to vacuum the floor, and I vacuumed the floor. Now I didn't feel joy, but neither did I feel any resistance to it. I just did it, and then I found myself cleaning up the garage where my son had dumped a whole lot of stuff and I didn't have much room left for the car. So I found myself reorganizing and making room. And that was fairly hard work. It was hot work and I even hurt my hand at one point. But again, there was neither joy nor anything else there doing that. It was fine. It was okay. And while I was doing that, I seems like I found myself washing the car, so I did that. And I would say probably none of those was there a huge joy, but neither was there any resistance to it. It was like almost like when I remember it, when I think back on it, those things just happened. Certainly there was some satisfaction at doing them. There was possibly some joy at the idea that my wife was pleased about it happening, but it wasn't a huge joy. I didn't feel like singing or anything like that. But
Yeah, I think it's easier with with this kind of work that doesn't require thinking.
yes, there was no thinking
Uh,
involved in it really. Yes.
Maybe there are some decisions when cleaning something. Should I throw this out or not? But um, not much. And
Yeah.
so it can be that I find myself washing dishes, and it just happened.
Yeah, I mean, even those things where it could be described that a decision was made. Like I was looking for a bucket, and I was looking for a particular bucket. We have a bucket that's a collapsible bucket, and that's the one I expected to find, and I was looking for that and couldn't find it. And then my wife said, "Oh, maybe it's down in the laundry." So then there was a case of, will I go down and have a look in the laundry? Well, I did go down and looked and didn't find it, but found another bucket which I brought back up. So it was like, oh yes, I could say I made a decision to go down and look in the laundry, or I didn't make a decision to not go down and look in the laundry. But really, those things just happened. There wasn't any energy in will I or won't I. It just happened. But I mean, even the tidying of the garage, it's been like it was the weekend. It was 4 days ago that my son brought all of this stuff and dumped it, and it's been 4 days where I haven't cleaned it up. So why did it happen today? I don't really know. It's somehow it wasn't because I made a conscious decision. I didn't ever say to myself, "Oh, I'll do it on Wednesday," but it happened on Wednesday.
Um, for me, I can see that sometimes it is action and reaction. If there is a voice of good child, I should do it. I have to do it. Then there is the reaction, no, I won't.
Yeah,
and then there is no way I can force myself to
yeah, yeah.
do it. Unless there is fear.
Okay. Oh well, fear will get you past that. Yeah, help you
Yeah.
make the decision. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something I've left behind, that will I or won't I, will I or won't I, yes or no, yes or no. I just don't even bother with that stuff anymore. If it needs to happen, it'll happen. If it doesn't need to happen, maybe it will and maybe it won't. Yeah, it's a tricky one. So do you find that there's a lot of energy gets used up in that good girl, bad girl, back and forward thing? It, sometimes it would is it a relief sometimes when the fear says you will do it? It takes away that energy expenditure of back and forward, yes and no. Is that something you've ever experienced?
I even when there is fear, the fight is still going on.
Okay, right. And do you get that back and forward stuff actually produces suffering, unpleasant feelings?
Hmm, not always, but sometimes yes.
Mm.
Hmm.
Do you see that back and forward stuff as stories, even though you may not have a choice about whether to engage them or not, that they are stories that you're responding to?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you ever feel like you have a choice to not engage with one or the other?
No, yeah. When Maya uh, uh, was talking from this position of good girl, and she couldn't remember the time when she was enjoying herself on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens to me also that if I'm in this good girl mode, I can't remember some things, and they, and in when I'm in the playful child mode, I can't remember other things.
Yeah, yeah. Can you remember that they occurred, but not just what they felt like?
The, um, but I can't remember how they felt like.
Hmm.
Oh, oh. mm, no, it's
See, I see
not
this
not no
pretty
not
normal.
quite like that. It's just that the good child is in one story
Hmm.
and playful child is in another story, and the story for them is whole world.
Yeah. I mean, I've recognised that, like for example, we're just about to enter autumn here, and 3 days ago or 4 days ago, I don't actually remember now. When I got out of bed in the morning, it was cold enough for me to put a jumper on. That'd be the first time I put a jumper on this year. And since then, it hasn't been that cold. I haven't put a jumper on again. Now I can remember that I put a jumper on. I can remember that it was cold enough for me to put a jumper on. But I can't remember what it felt like to be cold. And I recognise that this is the same. If it's cold, I can't remember what it felt like to be warm, but I can remember that I was warm. But I can't contact the feeling of what it was like to be warm. So whatever is here seems to push out the memory of the feeling of what was here once. I mean, you can talk about the good girl and the bad girl like you know that both of those things exist, but when you're in the good girl, you can't remember what it feels like to be the bad girl, and when you're in the bad girl, you can't remember what it feels like to be playful or whatever, the good girl. That sounds really quite normal to me. That's the way everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
I also recognised just recently it came to me, and this is even just last week sometime, it came to me that when we remember things, we re-experience them. It's not ever just, well, maybe it is sometimes, I don't know, but it's not just an objective movie that gets played when we remember things. It is a re-experiencing of or a version of the actual experience that we're remembering, and we remember it again.
Yeah, it's like retelling a story and getting into
Yes.
this story.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. It's like it's happening now. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it is like reading a book and getting immersed in this book, and I can't do anything about it. It's just
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Watch a movie and I'm crying and laughing and I'm with the characters even though I know it's a movie. I'm really with it. My wife keeps saying, "But it's just a movie, Vince. It's just a movie." I I enjoy that. I enjoy getting into it.
Yeah, it's just that they have this committee with two children, and every child wants to watch another channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then comes teenager who says, it's all bullshit. You won't feel better if you do this job. You won't feel better if you leave this and play all the time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Certainly the teenager is the most difficult of all. Yeah.
but he's calling the bullshit.
Yeah. Well, he calls everything bullshit.
Without the teenager, I would be sitting in the stories and wouldn't know that they are stories.
Yeah, well, that's useful then, isn't it? Mm.
Well, yeah, the teenager can call the bullshit, but she doesn't have the solution.
Mm.
Okay, so it's bullshit, and now what?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, it's like the teenager's job is never to feel good, no matter what. Mm.
yeah, teenage she can only rebel, but doesn't have a constructive
Yeah, yeah.
solution.
Yeah, it's easy when you think of it like that as a stages of development. It's easy to see how so many adults are stuck in their teenage years, no matter what age their body is.
I can see a part that I call the most adult, and she's, washing dishes without much thinking about it. It's just a reasonable thing to do.
Mm. Is that just escaping the tedium of it?
No, I think in this part there is some feeling of resignation and sadness. Um, but without fighting with these feelings.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like it's just what it is. I like this part because it's so calm
Mm.
after all this fighting.
And what about the youngster that is just absolutely enjoying the feeling of the warm soapy water and the smoothness of the plates and so on? That youngster is really has to be kept on track, otherwise they forget what they're doing and just enjoy the playing in the water. Dishes don't get done then, but yeah, boy, it's fun. Yeah, it's like jumping in a puddle.
She would choose only to wash only these dishes that are fun to wash, and the other half they can lay there dirty.
So maybe we have this progression from the young child through the teenager into the adult, and then the adult gets past being that and becomes all of the others again, even the teenager, but maybe not in the same way, but still rebelling in a
Oh, and
bad
now
way.
you are getting into a story.
Oh, yes, yes.
What will happen?
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what will happen. It's, for me, it's just uh, like I'm getting into a mode. I can be in a mode, in the mode of a good girl, in the mode of the adult, in the mode of playful child. And it doesn't feel like there is someone controlling it
hmm.
or choosing the mode.
Yeah, but I don't see that as much different. Maybe it is. It depends on the attitude, but that's, when I say that I'm experiencing the pleasure of the water when I'm washing the dishes, um, I'm getting in the mode of the young child, but still it comes out of the adult. It's not just the young child. So it is like a mode. Maybe it's not that different, but it's not exclusive either, because the adult part of me knows that I have to keep washing all of the dishes, not just the ones I like. Um, but I can still enjoy even the other ones. So they're not exclusive, those modes, are they? They can be mixed up.
Um, well, for me, it's not like that the adult um, it's the difference between the adult and the good girl. Good
Right.
girl knows that we have to wash all the dishes, and the adult is like, no, we don't have to, but it's sensible thing to do, so
Mm.
why not?
Mm-hmm. Mm. So are they always exclusive for you? You don't ever find them mixed up together?
Um, they can switch very quickly. Um, yeah, and yeah, and another mode can jump in, sometimes for 4 seconds and jump out. And sometimes it is somewhere in the background.
Mm. So is there room in there for something new, some new mode to emerge, or are they always defined as those that you've just described?
Hmm. there can be a new mode. There can be something um, well, I am aware that this whole system is a made-up thing. There is not really a child, another child, an adult. It's just some lines on on the map
Mm,
that I drew to just navigate this whole mess of my mind.
And more than your mind though, and your behaviour you're talking about,
Yeah.
and how you feel about it. Yeah, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there can be a part that I didn't name yet,
Yeah,
but it is there.
yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, so I just wouldn't like to see it confined to what you already know, especially when you're emerging into something unknown, like what you're discovering about, what you with your therapy, what you discover about yourself. That's obviously going to feel like it's something new, even though it's something that was
Mm.
always there. If it's discovered, it brings on some new perspective, doesn't it? And new behavior, new feelings.
Yes, and the therapy is more about how these parts communicate
Mm.
between themselves. Yeah, I have two children that fight with each other. This is the part when we work on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The sibling rivalry. Yeah.
And these are so very simple mechanisms, something that, you know, this is something that children are taught. If there is some um, unpleasant feeling, then either you distract the child. Oh, look, here is something nice to do, and yeah, if we play, then you will forget about your headache or whatever.
Mm. Yeah. Let's distract. Yeah.
And this is the strategy of my playful child.
Mm.
Let's do something interesting, and then we will forget, and all the addictions go in here.
Sure. Mm.
There's a classical drinking until I forget. And the second strategy is, if you do this, this, and that, then everything will be all right. We will get the band-aid, and yeah, your finger will stop hurting.
Yeah, yeah. We'll kiss it better. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these children really believe it. When I'm in this mode, I really believe it.
Yeah.
And then comes teenager and says bullshit. It
Yeah.
won't
Teenager
feel
believes nothing.
better.
Yeah.
It will feel worse.
It can only feel worse. Yes. Yeah. But I suspect that teenager is like that because they're looking for identity. They're looking for who they are. Trying to find a place, and it's like no place feels comfortable.
And the teenager feels deceived.
Yes, of course.
And the teenager is a protector, protecting boundaries and also protecting me against lies and
Mm,
false beliefs.
yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? When everything is a lie and a false belief, that's the way the teenager sees it. How is it protecting you? By recognizing that it's all lies and falsehoods. So everything has to be protected against the
I don't think that everything for him is a lie.
Mm.
I can see the teenager has respect for the adult,
Say that one again.
or
You can say the teenager what?
has respect for the adult part, because the adult part doesn't say we have to do this, or we should do this, or we shouldn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
He says it's sensible to do this, so why not?
Mm.
But it doesn't pushes any agenda. It doesn't push. Sorry, I'm my English is so oh.
Yeah, that's a pretty wise adult though that doesn't push an agenda.
And he doesn't say it will be better,
Yeah, which would be a lie, wouldn't it? Or at least, how could you know? Yeah.
because we don't know. We just do what is sensible at the moment. But my therapist was surprised that there is no part that is controlling.
Okay.
And no management in
Mm.
the system.
So what if yeah, what would that part be that would be controlling? Would that would,
I think this is how normally what normally people think about adult. What you have
yeah,
said,
yeah,
yeah, that the adult would say, "Oh, but we have to wash all the dishes."
yeah.
That the adult knows what has to be done. Um, but for me, it's a good girl,
Yeah, yeah.
not the adult.
Well, that's an amalgamation in a way, isn't it? That good girl has a lot of the adult attributes. But when your adult is not telling your teenagers things, then that's a pretty wise adult too. That's
Well, the good girl has adult. Well, it depends on how you define the adult.
mm, mm. So is there a need, do you think, to develop that adult? Or is it just unnecessary? There's enough, the good girl is enough to do everything that the adult would do anyway, maybe.
I think it helps to focus more on the adult, just to notice when he is appearing,
Mm,
when I go in this mode. Because it's calmer, and I remember long time ago I said this to Don, I think, or maybe to Dennis. No, I think to the Don,
mm,
because I see him like he has with children fighting, and he was saying that there is no adult who would
yeah, I remember that.
reparent the children.
Yeah, yeah, there's no adult there to do it. I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and I asked him, and what about this Don who just does things? It just washes the dishes.
Yeah, yeah, the good boy, Don, yeah.
No, but I think I also saw this adult in him that does things, that the children go on fighting and the adult quietly does things but
Yeah,
have to,
necessary, yeah. So you're saying he did have the adult, but he just didn't recognise it.
because the adult is very quiet.
Mm,
He
mm,
doesn't talk, he just do.
yep. Yeah.
Okay. I talked enough.
Oh, that was good. No, that was good stuff. Yeah. How are you, Lou?
Morning.
Hi.
Hi, Lennart. I haven't seen you for a while. I've heard you. Hi. Hi, Bianca. I'm just waking up, actually. Just, yeah. Um, I've been, yeah, it's been, oh, I don't know how to say it. Um, it's not a lot. going on in there at the moment, which is lovely. It's just been much more, I'd say it's kind of flipped from internal dialogue to much more peace inside. And then, like even now, it's just an effort to, there's just less stories. And when the stories come through, it's the same words, isn't it? I don't really, there's just a lot less belief. It's funny, I sent Marius an email. I did actually use your bot with this, because it must be about 2 weeks of having this very quiet internal space and just doing and things getting done. And if there was a decision to be made, I'd literally just go inside, so to speak. That's not really true, but just wait, and the decision, some movement happens. And I noticed there's some internal dialogue coming. It's very subtle that this is boring. You're bypassing. You don't feel anything. But it was so subtle that I kind of got on that roundabout a little bit. And yeah, and I asked your bot about it, and of course it pointed me back to, well, sit with that feeling. What does it feel like to be bored? And to, you know, the spiritual bypassing. It gave me some couple of pointers, which is really helpful. You know, am I using, I can't remember the wording, but anyway, it was really useful. And so I did. I just sat with those feelings of boredom, and it's all thought. So it was all another story. It was all another story. And it asked me whether perhaps those doubts were another form of seeking, because it did ramp up the, well, maybe I'm missing something.
So when it talks about, well, when we talk about seeking, yeah, there's kind of two aspects to that. One is what is happening, but the other one is what's behind the happening. And one of the things that is very definitely behind the happening is forming an identification. So we're really creating a self again when we start seeking, right? Or when we discover that seeking is happening. See, it's really hard to talk about these things without making it sound like they're wrong, but they're not. They're not wrong. They're just they're revealing to us, aren't they? So that if seeking turns up, if we get this feeling that, oh, there's something missing, I need to do something, it's telling us that something is uncomfortable, something is looking for a solution. And if we step outside of that act of looking for, of seeking, being moved by this idea that something is missing, we discover that it's not. You know, straight away we can't ever escape that here, now, this is absolutely complete.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's that but that comes in? Why aren't I feeling better? What is this feeling? that I have that I call boredom, that I call not enough. Well, it's a circular thing, isn't it? You see straight away that you get back to the same questions that brings us back to where it is. And it is very much a case of recognizing that we're responding to stories which create stories that we respond to, and around and around and around we go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's so I was out walking yesterday and in the woods, and so obviously there's just total enjoyment, just joy of just being out and the breeze and the face and the senses. And it just occurred to me that's another story. It's another story. And
Now,
it was just funny because that's
now you're
funny.
talking.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's it too. Yeah.
this is
But
another
it didn't.
level. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Good stuff is also a
Yeah.
story. Yes.
Yeah. But when I did sit with the boredom, it was really clear that it was a mental fabrication. It was a mental something was happening here to bring the story up. It because it's like I just wanted to ask somebody, is it okay just I could just walk around. There's just very little dialogue inside. It's just and it's just so different. It's so new that I suppose it would be normal to feel like there's a lack of something.
Yes. Even some grief, if stories come along, and if there's no stories, maybe some sadness at the loss of familiarity.
Yes.
You know, the old way going is like a death in a way. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also a birth in that, which is, yeah.
Mm. And notice when that happens, when that those stories are there, there's a loss of um, like the sense of like the vision, and the vision becomes um, more becomes more graspy and more darting. Whereas when there's just movement, like everything's noticed,
Yes.
um, and there's a very subtle joy in just noticing. So I noticed that difference as well. Even not that there's two. It's just very different perspectives,
Sure. Yeah.
and that
Well,
wider, yeah.
when the darting is happening, it's almost like you're looking for something.
Yes, that's what it feels like. Yeah,
And when there's
and the
just,
hand moves quick.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I like, what? Where are you rushing to?
yes,
Where are you going?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a almost a discovery trail in the noticing, in the just noticing, and it's 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 almost inviting thought to come in to celebrate the noticing, the just noticing. But that when that happens, when the thought comes back, that then the seeking, the grasping happens again. And so there's what I'm saying is that there's a skill to be developed in noticing. How can I put it? Noticing without noticing that you're noticing.
That's
If you
interesting.
if you
Yes.
notice that you're noticing, there's still
Yes.
identification there. When the
Oh,
when the
yeah.
noticing is just happening and there's no awareness of the noticing, that's when you're in direct experience, if you like. That's when that's when the magic will occur. And there's nothing subtle about it. It jumps up for me. It's huge. It jumps up really big, and it claps its hands and shouts out. You know that there's just that that awe is really big with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I now I know what you're talking. I had that. Yes, that happened as I was walking yesterday. It just filled up, and there was tears. There was tears
Absolutely. Yeah.
in there, and the awe of the simplicity of the colors and the light and the breeze.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and if you said somebody what was going on, it's thinking crazy, but it was just
So they want to know what you're on, but
yeah, and it was like something was really experiencing,
yes.
and it wasn't me. It
Yeah.
wasn't me. Yeah,
And
I
you can, and this sounds a bit contradictory to what I just said, but what you'll find is noticing that you notice will pop in for a moment here
yeah.
and there, and that's fine. That's fine because you go back to not noticing that you're noticing. You'll just go back to just being the noticing. And when you've got a when that moment of noticing that you're noticing occurs, if it doesn't interfere too much with the actual noticing, with the primary noticing, what you'll discover is that all your senses have merged. You're not in a single sense. You're no longer just seeing. When that awe is there, that you can't confine it to just seeing. There's something. It's almost like you're feeling what you're seeing. Or
Okay.
you're smelling what you're hearing. It's kind of weird. It's impossible to really describe. But what you'll find is the senses will start to merge in that wonderful place. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense because I remember the thought popping in. Oh, this is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Go away, thought. You're interrupting me. Yeah. Yeah.
There was I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. There was it was quite a brief moment where it was the opposite to what you just said, where there was a noticing of it's like each sense came to the fore, and then very brief moment I noticed that what I'm just these are just words, not what I mean, but what I was all these merged together, but it was
Yes.
really brief.
That's okay.
But I
That's brilliant.
yeah
So however brief. So brief is not an issue. However brief, that experience was on. Yeah. All right. I'll just say it. That experience was you were experiencing what I would call oneness, right? Non-separation, no separation from you, from those, from anything. So you were you were what you was what was coming into through the senses. You were it, and
mm,
it was you. That's a that and that will get bigger and happen more frequently. And
mm.
when you the first time you experience that with other people, it will blow your mind. You know, there will just be, you know, you. It makes me want to cry when I talk about it. Even you will feel that. I imagine when that happens. It's
Something changed after that. It was very subtle, but there
yeah. Well, you're open to it. It changed you. That experience changed.
yeah yeah. I would say that since then the activation or triggers, whatever you want to call them, is what then remembers that,
Mm.
and all I can describe it is like, it's just in that moment, just feel like a sensing machine, because everything's heightened, like, you know, the fluttering in the chest, or the tightness, and it's all sensation. I see that now. I just think back to a few months ago about the things that I was getting triggered about, and you know, I always remember your words. You know, it's a gift, and it is. I've had some very intense emotional things, and it's. I'm just curious. It's. I'm not frightened to feel those sensations, and it does bring back, like, where my there's a smell. You know, why am I smelling something when I'm crying? Or yeah, it's
Mm.
hmm. But that's really helpful. Thank you. Noticing. I think the other thing is just um, it's that there's a knowing that this is the same program that everybody's running from, and so there's been a much more like the activation takes quite a lot for the activation to come now, but it still comes. But sometimes I'm kind of watching them rather than watching their words. I can sense where they are believing in something. Not that I want to change it, but it's just really interesting, like,
Yeah, I get that.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's what you're doing when you speak to us. Um, yeah, it's the same thing that's running for everybody.
Yep. I
Yeah.
would also reframe that they're running away from, that they are, but they're also they're looking for something. They're running towards something, and they just don't realise that they're running down the wrong path often, you know, or maybe it's the path they need to run down to get to the right path, yeah, or maybe now
Yes.
will. Who knows? I mean, we just don't know that. But yes, but there's also that pretty big recognition that what you imagine somebody else is experiencing is about yourself.
Yes. Yes. I've seen that. Yes.
And again,
Yes.
another opportunity, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm. It's funny because I was a few months ago. I was getting a little bit frustrated going to AA meetings, and and I think it was after this moment. I go now, but it's an opportunity because I realized how much judgment I had. There was so much judgment going on, and so when I didn't go to that many now, but I try and go to at least one or two a week, and it's just interesting watching what's going on in here. The judgment, um, the know-it-all.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's just really interesting. So yeah, it's just different. It's a different experience. Yeah, and the boredom.
Mm.
That's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And never, hopefully, never resisting, never judging those things you see in yourself.
Mm,
They will all change with love. You just love them to death, so to speak. You know
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked what you talked about the other day. You talked about, I wasn't on the meeting, but I was listening to the recording about you can go back and every single thing has led up to this point.
Yes,
and it makes a lot of sense.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
That was also for me, that recognition that it all had to happen the way it did for this to be the way it is now was my first aha about the oneness thing, about the non-separation, just the recognition that it also collapsed time and distance. It also is it is that it's all in us now. Everything that's ever happened is the
Mm.
you could kind of say the results are in us, but the whole thing is in us. Everything that ever happened anywhere
Mm.
ever is all part of this. So there can be no separation. I mean, that's a logical jump, but it also feels like it's obvious that there can't be. It's all me. Every bit of it's me. You know, that butterfly in the Amazon 100 years ago is me now.
Mm. That takes me back to the moment in the forest, that awe. Yeah, in that moment, without that Louise, I'm experiencing everything.
Yes, you are the smells. You are
Yeah,
the
yeah.
leaf on the ground. You know, the bird
Mm.
flying above everything. Yeah,
Mm.
and the amazing thing is that inside of the illusion, it's all now.
That's what the activation also does. Like I said, it feels like that sensing machine, but it comes back to the moment. It's like it just automatically feels the feet on the ground and the sensations. It just happens. Um, so it's like before I would go off into Storyland, and it's like a camera clicking into focus. Yeah,
Mm,
just the energy that rises or whatever it does in that moment is the trigger now to look, which is beautiful. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's a
yeah,
reminder. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's good to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you. I know that, this kind of stuff can sound really woo-wooish to somebody who's not into it, but I just love the feeling I get talking to somebody who can understand, who can get it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be able to come somewhere and talk like this without being taken away in a white coat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm. How about you, Lennart? Is this too woo-wooish for you?
No, actually, I also had some moments in nature. Um, Last Saturday, I had a walk, and it was kind of gray, like a lot of clouds, and there are a lot of lakes around here. And I sat down by a lake, and it was frozen. There was ice on it, and there was like a little black bird. I think it's called black coot in English, and it has like this very big feet, red ones, and it was walking on the ice like flap, 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 and then after a while it jumped into the water. And the strange thing was that there was just like the watching of this walking of the bird, and I don't know how to describe it, but I really started not to cry, but I had like tears in my eyes because I felt like I was so in this moment, and it was I would say I felt like really appreciation or love or something like that for this bird, and it was really like, you are so amazing. I don't know like how you what you're doing there. And at the same time, I also realized that yeah, for example, once I sent a photo of a lake with this gray sky and the trees without leaves and so on to a friend of mine in Buenos Aires. And he has never traveled to any place that would have this climate as we have here. And he commented on this picture and said, "Oh wow, that looks like in a horror movie or something." Because no, I mean, winters are very sunny over there, so people are not really used to anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I noticed, like, yeah, I mean, we human beings interpret an atmosphere into, we read something into the weather and so on. And it also happened to me that I sometimes, I mean, for example, when you come to a city for the first time, then you read something completely different and you interpret it in a different way than if it is like the 10th time, for example. So
Mm.
that's like really something where you can n- realize that it's actually not the place, not what
It's,
you see, it's what you read into it.
yeah.
And I had some moments where it was so clear, like, ah, okay, well, but today I'm reading something completely different into the same place. So it's actually, yeah, my projection and not the place itself.
Mm.
And yeah, but it's strange. It happens to me recently, like very often, also with my cats, that
Yeah.
I look at them and I think like, how can you be so beautiful? I don't know. And then it really touches me. Uh, Honestly, I have to say it doesn't happen to me with human beings recently. I don't look at them and think, oh, you are so nice. I don't know.
But do you get that what you just described about the city, reading stuff into the city? You
Hmm.
read that, do you do that with people as well? You read that into people?
Yeah, I noticed that yeah, what Louise did, that yeah, I also still have this judging. But yeah, I mean, like, I go through the city and then I meet people on the street and suddenly there is a judgment. But yeah, of course, um, I can see that. And
You don't try and stop the judgment. You don't judge the judgment.
no, I don't. But I know it's just a judgment and it's
Yes.
not what the person really
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
Probably,
Yeah.
no, I mean,
So do you ask yourself, what am I getting out of this judgment when it turns up?
I know what it comes from because it's like I think when I was a, a teenager, and then it was rather like scanning like who could be the aggressor and who will be nice to me, and that's
Yeah.
just this kind of safety
Yeah.
mechanism. So,
Yeah.
okay, what's going on? Who is that? And is this person potentially dangerous or not? Because it happened to me that I was beaten on the street, for
Sure. Yeah.
example.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of easy to, it's too easy to say, oh, it's just homophobia or something like
Mm,
that, right? It's really, it wouldn't matter. That's an excuse for
mm,
those people that need to do that. But yes, so
mm,
there is that thing in you that says, I live in a dangerous environment. Yeah.
mm. But for example, sometimes when I come across people on the street, like for example, if it's a group of young men who are like, who have this kind of toxic masculinity,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
example,
And they hot
um,
each other up. Yeah.
then I do have a reaction. But then um, the good thing is that I have some young men um, in my classes, in my courses, who have like the same way of behaving or talking, but I know them. I know they are not aggressive, and it's just like their way because they learned that in their family or in their culture. It's just
Yeah.
their conditioning. So I can always like refer to my experience with, I mean, okay, that's also a story because other people who are similar in my judgment, like I see their behavior and it seems familiar when I compare it to people I know. So, but that's like the trick, but it happens within a second that I can kind of see, yeah, but probably they are nice guys. It's just
Yeah. Well, it's
they were
obvious.
brought up,
Yeah.
so.
But get them in a group together and get them with a little bit of alcohol in them or whatever, and
Mm,
it can be different too. Yeah, sure.
mm,
Yeah, no kind of ism, whether it's racism or any of that kind of stuff, exists when people get to know each other. It's only
mm.
it always takes isolation
Yeah,
to happen.
and that's what I noticed when I lived in Argentina, because here, for example, people don't talk to each other, people don't say hello, although they go on the same bus every day for many years.
Mm,
So,
mm.
um, and
That's a big
then
city thing too, though, eh?
yeah, and that, no, it's a small city here. I
Okay.
go every day by bus, and it's always the same people, but people won't look at me. They won't say hello. We
Mm.
won't start any conversation, nothing. And I think that is something that rather produces like this mistrust or like,
Yeah.
who's that? And but for example, I know this from because I had like for many years I had like those this social anxiety, and I totally lost it after having lived 5 years in Argentina because people like always talk to each other. And it's like, for example, people think it's rude when a beggar on the street comes to you and says like, do you have some money? Then you would not ignore him and turn away. That would be super rude. You would at least like also give him the hand and say, hello, how are you? It's yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, that's something I could really learn there, that when you say hello, and even if it's a bit of small talk, but then you don't feel such
Yeah, yeah,
social
yeah.
anxiety
Mm.
anymore, because yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, and this, yeah, after the last time we spoke, I wanted to inquire again into like what happens when I have to work 8 hours. So yesterday and Monday I worked 8 hours, and then, for example, on Monday after 4 hours, I already noticed that I started to have a headache, and I felt like bit dizzy, or I would, if I could, I would have laid down. I would have lied down. And but of course I couldn't. Then somehow it's not that I'm counting the hours or like, I want to go home, I don't want to. There's not this kind of resistance. It's rather like, okay, now you are in the situation, and just make the best out of it. And then, what happens is that I don't want to bore my students. I don't want to come into the classroom and be like, okay, just make this exercise alone or something. So what happens is I turn into the clown, and I I it's like
Yeah.
I'm switched on even more, and then that's kind of good because it somehow gives me the feeling, okay, yeah, but I can make it worthwhile. But the thing is that after 4 hours of doing that on top of already being
Yeah.
tired, then I feel totally exhausted, and I feel really sick, and it's and then yesterday the same thing happened again, but yesterday in the break between the first and the second part, I met my boss. She's not always there. Like it's actually a bit difficult to meet her, and that's and I hadn't really planned it because I hadn't really decided on anything. And that was also another opportunity to see that I'm not, there is not anybody who takes a decision. It just happens like this. And I asked her first, like, because what is happening at the moment is that courses can't be started because there are not enough people. So that's because there are too many border controls and people don't come to Germany anymore, and there's not so many migrants coming, so we don't have enough participants.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, then I asked her, like, okay, we are 4 colleagues, but there are not enough courses. And then I asked my colleague, my boss, would it be helpful if I reduced my working hours? I mean, if there are anyway not enough courses, or would that make things more complicated for you? And then she said, like, yeah, it depends. I mean, if the course that you are supposed to do really starts, then it would not be helpful if you reduced. But if it doesn't take place, or if it's not enough, then are not enough people, then it would actually be helpful. And yeah, and then I s- first I said, okay, good. And but then something within me was like, yeah, but I wanted to tell you that actually, on the long run, I'm not going to be able to work 8 hours anymore. And it was really like, whew, I didn't plan that at all. It just came out and it felt very good. And I must say that afterwards, I thought for a moment, like, oops, okay, I don't really know how I'm going to pay all the bills then because I will earn less money. But in the end of the day, I was so exhausted again, and it felt so unhealthy that I felt like, yeah, uh, well, it doesn't matter because it can't go on like this.
Mm.
I will find a solution to it somehow. I mean, but no, I'm not going to go on like this. This is, but it was really like parenting a bit because I was saying to myself, like, well done, you cared for
Yeah,
yourself. And I mean, then I also thought there was like a moment, okay, now the boss will think that I'm a lazy guy or something. And then I thought, like, yeah,
yeah, that's a story. Yeah. Mm.
never mind. I mean, so um, actually, I'm quite happy with that. I mean, I still, yeah, I have a conversation with her on Friday, and then I guess I have to go a bit into negotiation. So, yeah, because I can't reduce like from now on. It has to be planned,
Yeah, yeah.
and maybe I have to go on doing the same amount of hours like for 1 or 2 or 3 months. But I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
I
it'll,
feel better because I know that it's not going to be
yeah.
forever, and yeah.
And chances are it will change your experience in that
Mm.
second 4 hours anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I have a new class now, and that in that way I could take only this class and concentrate only on this group of people. And I must say I'm a bit more optimistic again because with my last course, I tried something very different. I mean, I don't want to say that it's my responsibility or anything, but um, I really trained them with like in a more effective way. And then usually in 24 people, there were only like six who passed the exam. And now it was like 50% of the people. And I mean, I was happy for them because they need this certificate in order to get a stay permit and to be able to work and so on. So, of course, I don't feel that it's all my responsibility or something, but of course, I'm happy when I see that
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
get something good out of it. So,
It's a significant increase too.
also, yeah, and also in my new course, I told people, okay, um, I'm on your side, but you really have to work in a disciplined way because it's your only chance, and the government won't pay you a second course if you don't pass the exams. So I promise you, I will help you to do with everything I can, but you have to cooperate with me. And people really understood that, and we have a really good contact and a good atmosphere for working together, and that gives me a bit more of this positive feelings. So it would really make sense to work only 4 hours a day, and that's something that I can enjoy as well,
Yes, yes,
but
yes.
not if it's 8 hours. So,
Yeah, no, it sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. And look, life will show up with whatever is required.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
you can be sure of that. Yeah.
but it was interesting because I mean, intellectually or like consciously, I hadn't decided on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
matter. But
Watching how life just does that is brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Good stuff.
yeah, but that also shows that it's like totally unnecessary
Yes.
to think about those things.
Yeah,
It will eventually just happen.
yeah. Yeah,
And
especially when
I,
you're thinking,
I
yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and
yeah, and
you
I really have, I'm really trusting much more. Um, I'm really trusting much more my intuition now, or like this kind of going with the flow and not like thinking so much about things.
yeah, well, yeah, yeah. Good one, very good.
Yeah, but it's really like it feels good because even today, even if it's my day off, I feel pretty shitty. Not emotionally, I mean, but physically, I feel horrible.
Mm, yeah, it takes a while to recover, I guess. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Looking after yourself, that'll get better. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go and cook tea for my wife now. So it's that time. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you all. Bye bye.
Bye.